Welcome back to the fifth quarter podcast. We got a great show for you tonight. I'm joined once again by Mr. Minnesota, JC. Seems to be a regular host nowadays, but thank you for tuning in wherever you are, whatever time it is. We got a great show for you tonight, recapping post week 7 and looking ahead to the future. So without further ado, let's dive into the week 7 recap. We'll start in the morning. We'll start with my team, the New England Patriots, heading to Nashville, getting the win in Mike Vrabel's return. Tennessee Titans looked great to start the game after firing Brian Callahan, their coach, but as the second half and the game went further along, they looked like the team that they have looked like all season. Drake May was unbelievable. The Patriots looked amazing in the second half, and they continue to roll in that AFC East. Another great game from the past week. We had a game down in London. It was a great game for Rams fans, not a great day for the Jaguar fans who seem to call London their second home. The Rams win this one 35-7 behind 5 touchdown passes from Matthew Stafford. Unbelievable performance there. A Thursday night game, the Unction, some might have called it. Joe Flacco and Aaron Rodgers, two of the oldest players in the NFL, dueling it out with an offensive battle. Joe Flacco and his new team, the Bengals, get the win here 33-31, changing up the AFC North, as the Steelers seem to be dominating before them. Jack's team, the Vikings, at home faced the Eagles this past week. Unfortunately, the Eagles did end up winning. It was a very close game towards the end, despite a few turnovers from Carson Wentz. The Vikings were still in this game, but A.J. Brown dominating late in game and Devontae Smith setting a all-time personal record. He had 180-something yards, something close to that. Unbelievable performance from him. And the Eagles offense seemed to come alive again, which they've been struggling in the past few weeks. The Eagles get the dub 28-22. An awful game in Cleveland as the Browns absolutely decimate the Dolphins. Another 3 interception performance from Tua, turned the ball over. The Browns easily take care of the Dolphins 31-6. We'll see if anything comes out in the next week or so about Mike McDaniels. His seat seems to be hotter and hotter every week. Wouldn't be surprising to anyone if he were to lose his coaching abilities and not have a job in the near future. Heading into MetLife Stadium, unfortunately, Bryce Young goes down with an ankle injury, but the Panthers behind Andy Dalton get a win 13-6. Tyrod Taylor was put as a starter as Justin Fields was benched, I believe, in the third quarter of the game. The Jets are the only winless team remaining in the NFL as of week 7. And then into Chicago, the Bears continue to roll. The Bears winning, I believe, their 4th straight game, 26-14 over Spencer Rattler and the Saints. This was really just a dominating performance from the Bears, and their offense seemed to fix some of the kinks that they've been trying to work out the first few weeks of the season. The Bears stay hot. The Bears continue to win. And then an absolutely horrible game at Arrowhead as the Chiefs win 31-0 against the Raiders. The Raiders are all out of sorts. They seem to be lost, confused, no identity. And no fight at all as the Raiders continue to go in that downward spiral against the Chiefs. And unfortunately, the Chiefs are on the other side are continuing to spiral up with Rashee Rice's return, an amazing return. I believe he had 2 touchdowns, JC. Am I correct on that?
Yep.
So great to see that from there. Into the next game, the Colts absolutely dominate the Chargers. I know the score might seem like it was only a 2-score game, but the offense, Jonathan Taylor, Daniel Jones, were absolutely dealing. The Colts win 38-24 in Los Angeles. I'll wait on one of the best comebacks of the game. We'll get into that later. But the Packers go into Arizona, escape with the win 27-23. As Kyler Murray was not playing in this game. And then into Dallas, the Cowboys absolutely destroy the Commanders 44-22. We'll see what Jaden Daniels looks like. He went into the tent and did not return. I'm not sure what the injury was. I believe it was a lower body injury. So we'll see if we get any updates on his injury status this week, which is unfortunate as he was just coming back from injury. And then the Sunday night football game, the Falcons headed to Santa Clara to face the 49ers, And the 49ers defense, Robert Saleh absolutely dominates. The 49ers win 20-10. The Falcons offense just could not seem to get going at all, despite Bijan's best efforts on offense. And then 2 Monday Night Football games, the Lions defense without any of their starting DBs from week 1, and then having a few injuries in the game, only let up 9 points to Baker Mayfield. Unfortunately, the Buccaneers did lose Mike Evans for most of the season with a broken collarbone, but Emeka Egbuka did play in this game, so his injury status is good. They hope to get Chris Godwin back as well later this week. So lose one wide receiver, get one back. The Bucs are struggling to stay healthy at wide receiver, but the Lions, with all their injuries, get the win over the Bucs. And then the final Monday Night Football game, the Seahawks win 27-19 over the Houston Texans, dropping the Texans to 2-4 on the season. Sam Darnold and the Seahawks looked absolutely dominant in the first half. And despite the Houston Texans' best efforts to come back in the game in the second half, their offense just could not get anything done in the red zone. Had a couple failed opportunities and just couldn't get the ball in the end zone for touchdowns when they needed to. But yeah, that's it for the week 7 recap. We will get into the Giants Broncos. The most unbelievable game from the past weekend was the Giants Broncos game. The Broncos came back in the fourth quarter. Coming into the fourth quarter, had 0 points, ended the game with 33 points and the win. An unbelievable comeback by Bo Nix and the Broncos in the Demaryius Thomas retirement celebration from his passing away at the young age of 33 years old. JC, an unbelievable comeback as the Broncos win 33-32, almost a double comeback as they came back. Then the Giants scored a touchdown, and then they came back and got the field goal for the win. Your thoughts on probably the most entertaining game of the season so far?
Well, I'll tell you this, history doesn't repeat, but it does rhyme. We saw this a couple years back with the Vikings and the Colts. Greatest comeback in NFL history for any of you guys that were wondering, barring the Super Bowl Falcons Patriots. But anywho, I thought that the coolest thing about this game was that, you got two young quarterbacks, obviously the rookie Dart and the sophomore Bo Nix. But the fact that it was weirdly a game the whole time. I know that it took the Broncos cutting that lean, but you could see that they kept their momentum, how even the last couple scores resulted in lead changes. It came down to the Giants missing that extra point, even giving the Broncos a spot where they can win off a field goal versus just a touchdown. I think this honestly shows to me that yeah, the Giants did blow a big lead, but it really leaves me thinking that both of these teams left this week, what is it, week 7, with positive takeaways. The Giants are still rolling overall. Yeah, they didn't make it out, but let's be honest here. The star of that show is Jackson Dart, and it really wasn't even his fault. Kicker missed 2 extra points in that game. One of those makes would have tied it since it's overtime. The other time would have sealed the win. And also you have Bo Nix, who, in my opinion, came into the season with some of the biggest expectations in terms of a young player, specifically a young quarterback, to transform his team and earn the franchise tag. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that it was an unbelievable effort by the Broncos offense that despite not scoring for 3 quarters, continuing to go out there. And I think this is a huge testament to Bo Nix and his leadership ability. I think we've seen it with any of these big time quarterbacks that you need to believe in your quarterback, no matter what the score is, that there is a chance for comeback. We've seen this with Tom Brady. We've seen this with Mahomes. These types of guys where doesn't matter the score, doesn't matter how much time's left, doesn't matter the percent chance, the minuscule amount that you're going to win it, that your wide receivers, your offensive line, your running backs, they can all go and do their job and just take it play by play, drive by drive until the clock hits 0. So I think it was a testament to Bo Nix and his leadership ability. And then also him just being able to go out there, throws for a touchdown pass, throws for a 2-point conversion. They go right back down again. Then he has a few runs. He runs for a touchdown. He throws for another 2-point attempt. So without having a run game and having to do that pass when pass-only offense, especially when they know that you're going to have to pass the ball being down. Um, him being able to use his legs and extend plays, make those long runs, and then just being able to hit the receivers that are open. I think it was an amazing game. And then also not only coming back and scoring a go-ahead touchdown with 1:51 left, but having only 33 seconds, I believe it was, and going down and getting them in field goal range. I mean, that is what veteran quarterbacks do. So I was more impressed with Bo Nix, the leadership ability there, and everyone from his team buying in, because those comebacks don't happen without that buy-in and belief, and the defense seeing that, reflecting it, that kind of momentum that switches from offense to defense. So very impressive game from Bo Nix, the Broncos, as they are now atop of the AFC West, just one game above the red-hot Red Kingdom Chiefs. We could dive into our next topic. The trade deadline is coming up November 4th, just a mere 2 weeks and some change away. JC, what is one trade that you would love to see at the trade deadline in the entire league?
Well, I'm not gonna lie here. I'm a little bit inspired by some that I had to pull off of ChatGPT, but it kind of got me thinking, how about Derrick Henry leaving the Ravens? I didn't really think much of this at first. I thought it was just kind of a random output but when you look into it, the Ravens are weirdly bad this year. I know they've gotten banged up, but it starts to make you question, do you really need a Derrick Henry on the same team where you have a Lamar Jackson? Not necessarily. Some of the games where the Ravens have looked the best, and I know that Derrick Henry's had his fair share of breakout games, but some of the games where the Ravens have looked the best, it just looks like he wouldn't have been a factor. Not to put any of the performance that he has down and speak lesser of it, but just to think that the Ravens probably would have won those games with anybody at running back. And I think that it also gives him the ability to end his career off on maybe one of those Leonard Fournette type of years. Leonard Fournette later on in his career joining up with the Bucks, ending up getting that Super Bowl championship. If you're telling me that you think the Ravens are going to win a Super Bowl, that's not going to happen. I know there's a home for Derrick Henry on some other team that is capable of making a run, and I think it could weirdly work both ways. What do you got?
Yeah, so I think there's two singular trades. I'll start with a maybe lower level player. Jacoby Myers has stated that he wants out of the Raiders. The Raiders don't look like they're going to make the playoffs as of right now. So this is an easy trade. You know, he's a great plug and play wide receiver. He has a low salary and he's a free agent at the end of the year. So again, this would be great for the Raiders to ship him off before his contract ends. He's towards the kind of the end of his career. So I think this would be a really easy deal that would help both sides. You know, the Raiders get some capital, another team. I think one team that would be great for this is the Buffalo Bills. You know, they have Keon Coleman, they have Khalil Shakir, you know, Dawson Knox and Dalton Kincaid, but injuries have really gotten the best of Kincaid, and they really don't have a number one wide receiver. So they're going to need that depth. I think the Bills, they've been struggling a little bit. The run game hasn't been as good. So upgrade the passing game, help Josh Allen out a little bit. Would love to see that for a team that's kind of been ravaged by injuries, just overall, especially on the defensive side of the ball. But I think their offense needs a little bit of a boost right now as they come out of this bye week. When it comes to bigger name players, I've said it once, I'll say it again. Trey Hendrickson. I think there's a multitude of teams that are contenders that would like to trade for him. You could think maybe the Eagles, maybe the Commanders. Um, you know, I don't think they're going to trade him in division to the Steelers. But I think one team that has been kind of talked about a lot that would like some help on the other side of their stud defensive end is the Detroit Lions. Put Trey Hendrickson on the opposite side of Aiden Hutchinson. I think they'd play really well off each other. And I think, yeah, the Detroit Lions, guess what? New coordinators, their defense looked amazing last night with a new defensive coordinator. They've been ravaged by injuries in the secondary. So go ahead, boost your defensive end to help that secondary out. The less time that the ball has to get out, the easier it is for worse DBs as the season goes on. I would love to see Trey Hendrickson go out there. I think it would be a perfect addition for a perfect team. He'd fit in there in the culture perfectly on Dan Campbell's team. And I really think that would take the Lions over the edge, maybe over that Eagles, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They already beat kind of over that hump and kind of into their own echelons in the NFC. I also think would really help them against teams like the Packers as well. So that's one trade that I would love to see. Just like I mentioned, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Baker Mayfield. It was this Baker Mayfield MVP. Everyone's been talking about it. That seemed to kind of go up in flames last night as the Buccaneers offense really struggled. But there are a few contenders in a wide open MVP race. JC, we'll start with you. Who is your current MVP?
Well, when you put it that way, as much as you want to say Josh Allen and Baker Mayfield from basically every other week, it's hard to still feel good about that. But this is where I'm going to stop. I think that's just recency bias. Yeah, Mahomes, now that he's got the offense coming back to full strength, looks great. But come on here. Let's stay high on Baker Mayfield. He's going to be tested with Mike Evans going down. Abuka seems to be limited. Chris Godwin, I'm not sure on the status of that return. Let's just give this guy the chance over the next couple weeks to see how he does with a limited, dampened, under fire powered team. For all we know, they'll still have a chance at finishing the season super strong, winning the division. I can already promise you that regardless of how good or not he plays, he'll still be leading top 3 to 5 in a lot of the important quarterback metrics. And I think that it's not reasonable to get too clouded with something that happened the other day.
Yeah, I think Baker Mayfield will still be in my top five, top three for MVP. I don't think he's the runner no more because, um, there's only a 6 to 7 game sample of of statistics this early in the season. So, time usually seems to kind of mend these wounds as the season goes on. There's more of a sample size. One game doesn't hurt you as much like it does currently. Um, I think if I had to put two guys at the top of the list, it would be Mahomes and Drake May. And let's not get too frisky here. Let's say Drake May for MVP. You can call this biased, but I believe he's number one in the league, 75% completion percentage, 1,744 yards, 14 total touchdowns, and I believe 3 turnovers on the season. So I think in this 4 game winning streak, these last 4 games, 0 turnovers, very efficient. Let me just look for the sake of it. These last 4 games, 91%, 69%, 73%, and 82%. So he's just being extremely efficient. The lowest quarterback rating of his last 4 games, 101. His other 3 ratings, 140, 135, 155. So he's doing everything he needs to do. He's doing his job. He hasn't thrown over 300 yards his last 4 games, but they've won every single game. Again, no turnovers. So he's just being extremely efficient with the ball. He just set a record for over 90% completion percentage in a game, an all-time Patriots record, number one. And that's with a minimum 20 passing attempts. So I don't think it's too crazy to say that Drake May is an MVP candidate and possibly number one, especially you can see the improvement. 7 games into the season, already more wins than their entire season total last year. An unbelievable turnaround. So I think Patrick Mahomes, you could also say in here too, but I guess time will tell. I think it's a little different when you have Andy Reid in the offense, but Vegas seems to like him and Josh Allen still. And I don't think Josh Allen's that out, but with a bye week and all that, he's kind of been pushed to the side from this. But um, as the MVPs go on having great seasons, we'll talk about a team that has had an awful season. The only winless team left in the NFL, the New York Jets. Saw a great clip today on social media where they're interviewing Jets fans coming out of the stadium after their 7th straight loss. And it was a young kid, teenager. And they ask him, they go, "What are your thoughts about the Jets in the game?" And he just goes, "I hate this team, man. I'm always going to be a Jets fan, but like, man, this team just sucks, man. It's horrible being a fan." I believe you saw that clip, JC, did you?
Yeah, I did. Struck a it struck a nerve.
I just wanted to discuss with you, JC. when a team is 0-7, despite the noise that New York media brings, probably the worst media market in terms of criticism of their own teams. It's very harsh. You saw with Sam Darnold, didn't work out there. He goes, it works in Minnesota, it works in Seattle. So, you have a new coach, you have a new quarterback who's not young, not old. I believe it's like his like 6th or 7th year. Jesus. Um, you have a frustrated star wide receiver. You have talent on the roster, not a completely void of talent team like maybe the Tennessee Titans or the Saints. When you look at their failures, they're 0-7. There's locker room noise. What are some things that you look at for a team like that they can fix internally to kind of get them out of this dark spot?
If I could answer that question really confidently, I think I'd have a job of GM for the Jets because it seems like even some of the brightest minds in football can't turn this one around. But honestly, it just has to do with building off of what you've got. And I know that's not that much, but even when it doesn't seem apparent, every team, every situation has strengths. Like they do still have guys that you can build an offense around. Take Fields, for example. There's too many quarterbacks that thrive with the same type of play style as he has. Being able to leg it, make decisions on the fly, never really have to be too reliant on throwing the deep ball. You got your pass catching, playmaking receiver in Garrett Wilson. And let's not forget, besides Brees Hall, they also have one of the better but less proven backups in Braylon Allen. I think it just has to do with keeping a weird form of optimism in terms of realizing that there can't be light without darkness. Like, what's the worst thing that happens? They get a top pick in the NFL draft next year. Their offensive line slowly comes back. They have multiple quarterbacks that they try out in the offseason. I mean, something's going to turn around. The NFL is designed in a way where that happens. There is some rewards and benefits to being a bottom team, and I think that it's just gonna be time for Jets fans to look further out into the future.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's a doubt in anyone's mind that this team is going to be picking at least top 5 in the draft. And this is particular not a strong quarterback class. And even today, the Jets owner, Woody Johnson, was very critical publicly of Justin Fields, but seemed to back up Coach Aaron Glenn. So I think for the Jets to fix this, listen, just take this year week by week, try to get the wins out. I think you need to build your offense around your key players. I know if you watched the Jets Dolphins game a few weeks ago, first half their offense couldn't do anything. Second half, they start passing the ball to Garrett Wilson a ton, their star player, and their offense seems to be doing better. So you cannot have your offensive philosophy and then try to plug in these players. You have to build your offense around what your skills are. You have Brees Hall, you have Garrett Wilson, you have Justin Fields' rushing ability. You need to build around the strengths for your offense to do something because their offense has been dead in the water the last 3 weeks. And then besides that, looking ahead to the future, when it comes to the draft, when you're going to be picking top 5, top 3, maybe number 1, you just need to take the best player available that's not a quarterback. You have to stick with Justin Fields, Tyrod Taylor, a free agent of some sort for another year because you have to build your team before you can get the quarterback, especially if you do not think that when you're picking at top 5, top 3, top 1, if one of those quarterbacks is a, generational talent, your franchise quarterback, if you do not believe 100% that that is your franchise quarterback, you know, take the edge out of Miami, take the tackle out of Utah. Just take the best player available that fits your team, probably on the offensive or defensive line in the trenches, and build towards the future. We saw this like when the Lions took Penei Sewell, not a flashy pick, but guess what? Now this guy is one of the best, if not the best, tackle in the league, and gives plenty of time for receivers like Amon Ra, can block for running backs like Gibbs and Montgomery. So just build up your team little by little, and don't just go for the quarterback because that's what it looks like it's going to happen with the pressure from ownership. So I think just survive the year. I mean, who knows if Aaron Glenn will be there next year, hopefully, but They need to get a win, and their offense needs to get some sort of buzz going because they cannot score points. The last 3 games, they've scored 6 points, 11 points, and then 22 points versus the Cowboys, which is the worst defense in the league. So they need to get that offense flowing, build it around G. Will and Brees Hall. So that's my thoughts on the Jets. Not wishing them luck as a Patriots fan. It's nice to have them 2 games on the schedule. Hopefully we keep them winless, but colossal failure. It seems this franchise is cursed, man. But we'll get into another team that has kind of been slumping out there after a strong start. The Los Angeles Chargers. They debuted their new mustard jerseys. JC, I'm not sure if you saw those, but the Chargers debuted these mustard jerseys at home. JC, what are your thoughts on these interesting looking jerseys?
Well, I'll tell you this. The thing that I really like about it is that it kind of reminds me of when the Timberwolves had those lime green neon jerseys, and they actually sold surprisingly well, believe it or not. I think it's good to be willing to push out new things. Whereas in the case of the Chargers, I would have been a much bigger fan of a rollout of the vintage jerseys, and they're not too different. I just looked him up, grabbed a picture because I was thinking that OG LaDainian Tomlinson jersey that you see people wearing around everywhere. Dude was a stud. We need more running backs like him nowadays, but it's it's all right that they tried switching stuff up. Their color rush is better, their vintage is better, but you gotta experiment to be sure.
Listen, I don't mind teams experimenting with jerseys, but why are they so dark? I mean, it literally looks like a hot dog topping running out on the field, throwing a ball, catching a ball, tackling. I need my condiments to stay in the fridge, not on the field. We got to add some lightness to this. This is the Chargers. We're talking about lightning is where the yellow comes from. And this is like a dark yellow mustard. They need to bring in some neon, bring in some lighter yellow because I want to see highlighters running on the field that actually correlates with their colors. Not my Heinz mustard running all the way to Pittsburgh. So I wasn't a huge fan of it. Like you said though, I like when teams experiment with jerseys and don't just stick with the traditionals. So hopefully next time they can make them a little bit brighter. Heading back to New York in the sad pits of Jets fans. MetLife Stadium. This stadium seems to take out players with massive injuries every year, multiple times a year. This time it's Bryce Young and his ankle. Every time a player is getting injured at this stadium, um, the question comes up: MetLife Stadium, the turf. This is an unsafe for players. This is unsafe for the league, just everyone involved. So, um, I just want to know what your thoughts are because I can name you a few players that have been injured on this. So Bryce Young, like I mentioned, Nick Bosa tore his ACL here, Jabril Peppers tore his ACL, Sterling Shepard, Wandale Robinson, Kyle Fuller, all tore their ACLs. Aaron Rodgers tore his Achilles. So did Jalen Phillips. So did Malik Neighbors tearing his ACL this year. So this stadium just seems to be cursed. I'm not sure if it's the turf. I'm not sure if it's just cursed. Something is going on with MetLife. Players are never happy. Fans are especially not happy. JC, what are your thoughts on MetLife Stadium and the injury history curse, whatever it is you want to call it?
So that's the question here. When you have too many coincidences at once, too many people getting, and it's typically the same injury. It was a combination of what ACL, MCL, and Achilles,
I'm not sure if MCL is in there, but for sure torn ACLs and torn Achilles.
which I know that is a common injury in football, but more or less that pertains more to running backs. And you had a couple quarterbacks. It was Rodgers and Bryce Young to name a few. I feel like there's two angles here. You can take the scientific angle where I know there is a lot of player testimonials and data to back up how turf fields have different effects on injuries, increasing the likelihoods and just putting your body in a weirder position. Whereas if you'd have to bring more so speculation into it, you'd start to think, are the games that are happening in MetLife just refereed looser? Are the players being more dirty? I'm not completely sure. I haven't seen enough football played in MetLife to be positive about that, but there's something going on there. There's something in the air at MetLife Stadium.
Yeah, whatever it is, I know when you see a player testimonials, several key players, I think that speaks larger than anything else that you could bring up because these are the guys that are actually stepping foot on it, playing on it, cutting, jumping. So I think they should listen to the players. I'm not sure if it's Woody Johnson, if it's the Mara family, if MetLife Stadium. I believe actually they're owned. I want to say by the Giants or their own corporation, like outside of them. But whatever it is, they need to get it fixed, whatever it is, because players are complaining, players are getting injured, and we're talking about players that generate millions and millions in revenue. So you think it would be worth the investment, but um, yeah. Prayers for Bryce Young. Hopefully he's injured, and we can see the 4-3 Carolina Panthers continue to stack wins and wins and wins. Is there any other topics, JC, that you'd like to dive into today?
Let's revisit Rookie of the Year real quick. If you had to pick your favorite, try and be, try and be as biased or unbiased as possible. Who do you got?
I feel like it has to be Emeka Ibuka. I mean, this guy's been an absolute stud. He's been not, I mean, I know in fantasy he's, a top 6 wide receiver, but I'm not talking about fantasy. I'm talking about this guy is one of the best receivers in the NFL statistically this season as a rookie. This is to the likes of Justin Jefferson, which he lost it to Justin Herbert because the quarterback controversy with, quarterbacks always winning those awards. So I would have to say it's Emeka Ibuka. This guy has stepped in from day one, looked like an absolute professional, one of the best receivers in the league. Um, and I really just don't think there's any other rookies. Cam Ward's had his struggles. There's no other rookie quarterbacks. You could maybe say Jackson Dart. Again, he's only played like 3 or 4 weeks, so I kind of can't include him in there. In a few weeks, maybe he'll enter that conversation. But there's no other players that I can think of that have had such a big impact on the offensive side of the ball. There is a defensive rookie of the year, and I really like my guy, Will Johnson out of Michigan for the Cardinals. He's been a stud corner, one of the best rated corners. He's missed a few weeks with injury, but when he's been out on the field, he's been unbelievable. So I would have to say Emeka Ibuka on offense, Will Johnson on defense. Would love to know your thoughts on that.
I think you hit the nail on the head. So your two runaway favorites for offense rookie of the year are Jackson Dart by a nose, shortly followed by Emeka Buka. Tyler Warren honestly should be way more considered in that conversation, but there's no favoritism towards tight ends, which is weird because of how much better they've been getting lately. I
100%. He's been
personally
great.
I personally would go Jackson Dart here, but basically keeping in mind what you pointed out is that this isn't off of what we've seen so far. This is off of potential. He has the keys to the most valuable vehicle as a quarterback. You're going to get all the recognition and all the praise when you turn a team around and when you do a good job. And I think that there's no team that's more fun to watch than the Giants right now. Dart looks the part. He's willing to put his body on the line. He strikes me as a true leader. He strikes me as somebody that's going to take the Giants maybe 1 or 2 games in the playoffs. Who knows? And as far as the defensive end goes, if I told you I knew what was going on there, I'd be lying. We'll just throw out Abdul Carter because I've heard good things about him, and he was beast of Penn State.
Yeah, I think he's a guy that not a lot of people are talking about, but I know my Giants fans have been hammering it that he's been amazing. I think another player that we didn't mention on offense who started the season late is Quinshon Judkins. He's been unbelievable for the Browns. Their offense seems to have new life as he's came in after having some legal cases that got him to start the year late. So I think those are two guys that are kind of under the radar right now, which is kind of crazy for Abdul Carter being, the third overall pick and in New York and kind of being under the radar. Really surprising there. But him and Quinshon Judkins, I think Quinshawn, give these guys a few more weeks. Again, like we said in the MVP, it's only week 7. Guys have only played 6 or 7 games, depending on their bye week. Small sample size. But as the weeks go on, we'll discuss this more as it really will begin to take shape, and usually time will tell a clear winner. But when it comes to this and the quarterbacks, guys like Tyler Warren might get screwed, or even guys like Emeka Ibuka, just because if Jackson Dart continues to do what he's done these past few weeks, he'll probably win it just based off of that. But yeah, that'll do it for this episode of the Fifth Quarter Podcast. Wherever you're tuning in, thank you for joining us. We hope to deliver you more news and analysis of the NFL and football. Thanks for tuning in. Enjoy the rest of your night. God bless.